Good evening. This is Richard Radio. It's a cool, crisp evening out there, with a gentle breeze rolling in from the Sierra Nevada. If you're stepping outside, you might want to grab a sweater or a light blanket to stay cozy. Looking ahead, tomorrow's forecast promises more of the same clear skies, mild temperatures in the low 60s, and a touch of that autumn chill we all love this time of year. Perfect for a walk, if, well, things were a bit more normal. But normal's not the word for tonight, is it? I'm sitting here in the studio, looking out over the city, and I can see folks gathered on the streets below, their faces turned upward, not at the stars, but at something else entirely. We're in the middle of something strange, something no one saw coming. I'm going to do my best to keep you informed, to keep us all connected, because that's what radio's for, bringing us together, especially when the world feels like it's turning upside down. About an hour ago, we got word of something happening, not just here in Carson City, but across the country. Reports started trickling in first from small towns in the Midwest, then bigger cities like Denver, Atlanta, and even out on the coasts. People were seeing things, hearing things, and then, well, let's just say the situation escalated fast. I'm talking about what the authorities are calling unexplained disturbances. That's the official term, but you and I both know what folks are whispering about out there. Zombies. Yeah, I said it. It sounds like something out of a late-night movie, but the reports are real, and they're coming in from every corner of the USA. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear. I'm not here to stir up fear or tell ghost stories. My job is to keep you in the loop, to share what we know as we know it. So let's break this down together, step by step, like neighbors talking over a cup of coffee. The first reports came from a little town called Haven, Kansas, around 6 p.m. Central Time. Folks there started calling emergency lines, saying they'd seen people stumbling through the streets, moving slow, looking off, not drunk, not sick, but something that made the hair on the back of their necks stand up. By 7 p.m., similar calls were flooding in from places like Boise, Idaho, and Asheville, North Carolina. People described these figures as pale, unresponsive, moving with a strange, jerky gait, like their bodies weren't quite their own. I thought the same thing at first. But then the videos started popping up online. If you've been scrolling social media tonight, you've probably seen them. Grainy cell phone footage of figures shambling through parking lots, ignoring shouts, moving toward anyone who got too close. In one clip from a gas station in Missouri, a guy tried to talk to one of these folks, asking if they were okay. The figure didn't answer, just kept coming, slow and steady, until the guy backed off and ran. That video's been shared thousands of times already. Here's where things get serious. About 30 minutes ago, the National Emergency Alert System cut into broadcasts nationwide, including ours. You probably heard it, a calm but firm voice urging everyone to stay indoors, avoid contact with anyone acting strangely, and keep listening for updates. They didn't use the word zombie, but they didn't have to. The message was clear. Something's wrong, and it's spreading. They mentioned biological anomalies and public safety measures, which is government speak for we're figuring this out, but it's bad. They also advised people to secure their homes, lock doors and windows, and stay away from crowded areas like malls or downtown streets. I'm looking out my studio window now, and I can see the lights of Carson City flickering, not all of them, but enough to notice. The streets are busier than usual for a weeknight, with folks standing in small groups, pointing at something in the distance. I can't quite make it out from up here, but there's a tension in the air, like the whole city's holding its breath. A few police cars are cruising by, their sirens off, but their lights flashing, probably trying to keep things calm. I've got to hand it to them. They're out there doing their best in a situation none of us were trained for. Let's talk about what we know so far. The authorities haven't confirmed a cause, but they've ruled out a few things. This isn't a chemical spill or a gas leak. Those don't make people move like that. It's not a coordinated attack, at least not in the traditional sense. There's no group claiming responsibility, no demands being made. Scientists are already on the case, with teams from the CDC and other agencies setting up in major cities to study what's happening. They're looking at everything from viruses to environmental factors. But so far, there's no clear answer. What we do know is that these affected individuals, let's call them, don't seem to be communicating. They don't respond to words, gestures, or even physical barriers in some cases. They just keep moving, drawn to noise or movement, like moths to a flame. I've been getting messages from listeners all over the country, and I want to share a few to give you a sense of what's happening out there. In Lincoln, Nebraska, a listener named Sarah said she saw a group of these figures wandering through a park near her house. She said they moved in a loose pack, not talking, just shuffling along, knocking over trash cans and ignoring the dogs, barking at them. In Flagstaff, Arizona, a truck driver named Tom reported seeing a handful of them on the side of the highway, standing still until his truck got close, then turning to follow it. He said it gave him chills, like they were waiting for something. These stories are coming from regular folks, just like you and me, trying to make sense of a night that doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not a scientist or a government official, just a guy with a microphone who loves telling stories. But I've been around long enough to know that panic doesn't help anyone. So here's my advice, straight from Richard Radio. Stay calm, stay smart, and stay safe. If you're at home, lock your doors and windows, like the alert said. If you've got family or friends nearby, check in with them. Use the phone, not social media, since networks are getting spotty. If you're out and about, try to get somewhere secure, like your home or a friend's place, and avoid big crowds. The last thing you want is to get stuck in a mob when things are this uncertain. I'm also hearing reports that power outages are starting to hit some areas. Not here in Carson City, at least not yet, but places like Spokane, Washington, and parts of rural Ohio are reporting blackouts. If you've got a battery-powered radio or flashlight, keep them handy. Charge your phone now, just in case. And if you're wondering whether to stock up on supplies, I'd say it's not a bad idea to have some water, food, and first aid stuff ready, just like you would for a storm. No need to go overboard, but a little preparation goes a long way. As I speak, I'm getting an update from the station manager. Looks like another emergency alert might be coming soon. I'll keep you posted as soon as we hear it. For now, let's take a moment to breathe. This is a lot to take in, and I know it's scary. I'm right here with you, feeling that same knot in my stomach, wondering what's next. But we're tougher than we think, folks. We've faced hard times before: fires, floods, you name it, and we've come through. Tonight's different, sure, but we'll get through this too. One step at a time. I'm going to stay on the air as long as I can, keeping you updated and sharing your stories. If you're listening, know that you're not alone. We're all in this together, from Carson City to every town and city across the country. The emergency alert we were expecting just came through a few minutes ago, and it's got everyone here in the studio on edge. The National Emergency Alert System issued a new message, and it's more serious than the last one. They're urging everyone to stay indoors, no exceptions. They're saying these affected individuals, the ones moving strangely, are now being reported in larger numbers, and they're not just wandering aimlessly anymore. In some places, they're gathering in groups, moving toward populated areas, drawn to noise, light, or anything that signals people. The alert also mentioned something new. These figures seem to be reacting to each other, almost like they're coordinating, though no one's sure how or why. The government's still avoiding the word zombie, but they're advising people to treat these individuals as dangerous and to avoid contact at all costs. I'm looking out the window now, and I can see the streets of Carson City are quieter than they were an hour ago. Those groups of folks who were standing around, pointing and talking, have mostly scattered, probably heeding the alert to get inside. A few stragglers are still out there, hurrying to their cars or homes, casting nervous glances over their shoulders. The police presence has stepped up. More patrol cars are circling, and I just saw a National Guard truck roll by, which is not something you see every day in a town like this. It's a reminder that whatever's happening, it's not just a local problem. This is nationwide, maybe even bigger. Let's talk about what's coming in from other parts of the country. Reports are flooding in from listeners and news feeds, painting a picture of a situation that's growing by the hour. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, a listener sent us a message saying they saw a group of these figures, maybe 20 or 30, moving through a shopping district, knocking over signs and crashing into parked cars. They didn't seem to care about the damage, just kept pushing forward like they were searching for something. In Portland, Maine, a hospital worker posted online that their IE's overwhelmed, not just with injuries, but with people who've been bitten by these affected individuals. The bites, they say, are causing strange symptoms: fever, confusion, and then, in some cases, the same jerky movements we're seeing in the streets. I'm not a doctor, but that sounds like something spreading, and it's got folks worried about how fast this could get out of hand. Here in Nevada, things are tense, but still under control, at least for now. The governor's office issued a statement about 20 minutes ago, saying they're mobilizing state resources, National Guard units, emergency response teams, and even local volunteers to set up safe zones in major cities like Reno, Las Vegas, and right here in Carson City. They're asking people to stay calm and follow instructions, which is easier said than done when you're hearing about stuff like this. They've also set up a hotline for anyone who's seen these affected individuals or has information that might help. I'll read that number out later, so keep a pen handy if you need it. One thing that's striking is how this is affecting people differently across the country. In rural areas, like parts of Montana or West Texas, folks are reporting smaller groups of these figures, sometimes just one or two wandering through fields or along back roads. In bigger cities, though, it's a different story. Chicago's news stations are reporting chaos in some neighborhoods, with crowds of these individuals moving through downtown, overwhelming police barriers. In Los Angeles, there's footage of freeways gridlocked as people try to get out of the city, only to run into groups of these figures blocking roads. It's like something out of a disaster movie, except it's real, and it's happening right now. I've been getting messages from listeners asking what to do if they encounter one of these affected individuals. The official advice is clear. Don't approach them, don't try to help, and don't assume they're just confused or hurt. The emergency alerts are saying these figures are unpredictable and could be dangerous. If you see one, get away as quickly and quietly as you can. Head for a secure location, your home, a neighbor's place, or one of those safe zones the authorities are setting up. If you're in a car, keep your doors locked and windows up, and don't stop, even if they're in the road. It's tough to hear, because these might be people we know, neighbors, friends, family, but right now, safety comes first. I want to take a moment to share a story from a listener in Boise, Idaho, because it hit me hard. They wrote in saying they saw their neighbor, a guy they've known for years, standing in his front yard, just staring at nothing. They called out to him, but he didn't respond. When they got closer, they noticed his eyes were cloudy, his movement stiff, like he wasn't himself anymore. They backed off and called the police, but by the time help arrived, he was gone, part of a larger group moving down the street. Stories like that make this feel personal, like it's not just some far-off problem. It's in our neighborhoods, our communities. Power outages are becoming a bigger issue now. Parts of the Midwest and Southeast are reporting widespread blackouts. And even here in Carson City, the lights are flickering more than I'd like. The grid's taking a hit, maybe because of the chaos in the cities or something else we don't know yet. If you've got a generator, now's the time to make sure it's ready. If not, grab those flashlights and batteries I mentioned earlier. Keep your radio on, because we're committed to staying on the air as long as we can, bringing you updates and a bit of company through this long night. I'm also hearing about communities coming together, which is something to hold on to. In small towns like Roswell, New Mexico, and Mankato, Minnesota, people are opening their homes to neighbors who don't feel safe alone. Churches and community centers are turning into makeshift shelters, with volunteers handing out blankets and food. It's a reminder that even in times like this, we look out for each other. If you're in a position to help, maybe you've got extra supplies or a safe place to share, reach out to those around you. A little kindness goes a long way when the world feels like it's unraveling. The science side of this is still a big question mark. The CDC and other agencies are working around the clock, but they're not ready to say what's causing this. Some experts are talking about a virus or pathogen, something that spreads through bites or close contact. Others are wondering if it's environmental, like something in the air or water. There's even talk of a lab accident, though no one's confirmed anything like that. For now, all we know is that these affected individuals are increasing in number, and they're not acting like the people they used to be. The government's promising more answers soon, but they're asking for patience, which is tough when you're locking your doors and wondering what's outside. Back here in Carson City, the National Guard is setting up a checkpoint just a few blocks from the studio. I can see their trucks from my window, along with some barricades going up. It's a strange sight in a town that's usually so quiet this time of night. The soldiers look calm but focused, and I'm grateful they're out there. If you're in the area, you might hear helicopters overhead. Those are part of the response, probably moving supplies or personnel to where they're needed most. I'm going to keep taking your messages and sharing what I can. If you've seen something or have a story, send it our way through the station's website or social media. We're all trying to piece this together, and your experiences help fill in the gaps. If you're tuned in, you're probably locked in your homes, maybe with a flashlight or a radio close by, trying to make sense of this zombie outbreak that's sweeping across the country. Let's pick up right where we left off and keep sorting through this together. It's been about 20 minutes since that last emergency alert, and we've got new information coming in, though it's raising more questions than answers. The National Emergency Alert System just issued another update, and it's a tough one to hear. They're now confirming that these affected individuals, what most of us are calling zombies, are not only increasing in number, but are showing signs of what they're calling organized behavior. That's a fancy way of saying these figures seem to be working together in some way, moving in packs and targeting areas with a lot of people. The alert didn't give details on how they're coordinating. Nobody's seen them talking or signaling, but it's clear they're drawn to places where there's noise, light, or movement. They're also saying that anyone who's been bitten or scratched by one of these individuals needs to seek medical help immediately, ideally at one of the safe zones being set up in major cities. Here in Carson City, the streets are almost empty now. The folks who were out earlier, staring at the sky or talking in groups, have mostly taken the advice to get indoors. From my window, I can see the guards' barricades glowing under streetlights, with soldiers standing watch, their radios crackling. The helicopters I mentioned earlier are still circling, their blades chopping through the air every few minutes. It's eerie, but it's also a sign that people are trying to get a handle on this. I just saw a convoy of emergency vehicles, ambulances, police cars, and what looked like a CDC van heading toward the edge of town. I'm guessing they're setting up one of those safe zones the governor talked about, maybe at the community center or the high school. Let's talk about what's happening beyond Nevada. The reports coming in are painting a grim picture, but I'm going to stick to the facts and keep this straightforward. In Dallas, Texas, local news is reporting that entire neighborhoods have been cordoned off after large groups of these figures started moving through residential areas. People are being told to evacuate to designated shelters, like stadiums or convention centers, where the National Guard is providing protection. In Seattle, Washington, there's word of a major incident at a hospital, where a group of these individuals broke through security and caused chaos in the emergency room. Details are sparse, but the hospital's been evacuated and patients are being redirected to a military base nearby. Out east, in Richmond, Virginia, a listener sent us a message saying they saw a group of these figures, maybe 50 or more, moving along the James River, ignoring everything around them until a car horn went off. Then they turned all at once and started heading toward the sound. One thing that's becoming clear is that sound is a big factor. These affected individuals seem to zero in on noise car horns, shouting, even music playing too loud. That's why the authorities are stressing to keep things quiet. If you're at home, turn off anything that might draw attention. No blaring TVs, no loud conversations outside. If you're in a safe spot, try to stay as silent as possible. I know it's tough, especially if you've got kids or pets, but it could make a difference. A listener from Boise, Idaho, wrote in saying they turned off all their lights and kept their dog quiet by giving it a chew toy. They said a group of these figures passed right by their house, close enough to hear their footsteps, but didn't stop. That's the kind of quick thinking that might save lives tonight. The power situation is getting worse. More cities are reporting outages, and it's not just the Midwest and Southeast anymore. Parts of California, including Sacramento, are completely dark, and there's word that New York City's grid is starting to falter. Here in Carson City, we're still okay, but the lights in the studio are flickering every now and then, and I'm keeping a flashlight on the desk just in case. If you're in an area with power, charge everything you can: phones, radios, anything that'll keep you connected. And if you're in a blackout zone, stick to battery-powered devices. I've got a wind-up radio here in the studio as a backup, and I'd recommend digging one out if you've got it. They're old school, but they work when nothing else does. I want to share a few more stories from listeners, because they're helping us piece together what's happening. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, a woman named Clara sent us a message saying she and her family are holed up in their basement with enough food and water for a few days. She said they saw a group of these figures moving through their neighborhood, knocking on doors like they were testing which houses were occupied. That's chilling, and it's a reminder to stay quiet and secure. In Bismarck, North Dakota, a farmer named Greg reported seeing these figures wandering through his fields, trampling crops but not eating anything. He said they seemed confused, like they were looking for something but didn't know what. These stories show how different this is from place to place, but they all point to the same thing. This isn't slowing down. The government's response is ramping up. The CDC has teams on the ground in at least a dozen cities, collecting samples from affected individuals to figure out what's causing this. They're still not sure if it's a virus, a toxin, or something else entirely, but they're working fast. The military's getting involved too, with reports of National Guard units and even active duty troops deploying to urban areas. Washington, D.C., there's talk of a special task force being formed to coordinate the response nationwide. They're calling it Operation Safe Haven, and the goal is to secure key cities and protect as many people as possible. Here in Nevada, The governor's office just announced that safe zones are officially open in Reno, Las Vegas, and Carson City, with more being set up in smaller towns like Elko and Fallon. If you're in a dangerous area and can get to one of these zones safely, they're saying it's your best bet. I've been thinking about what this means for us, not just tonight, but in the days ahead. We're used to dealing with problems. We can see coming storms, power outages, even wildfires. But this is new territory. It's testing us, forcing us to think on our feet. I'm hearing stories of people stepping up in ways that give hope. In a small town in Oregon, a group of neighbors banded together to board up windows and share supplies. In Memphis, Tennessee, a local radio station not unlike ours is staying on the air, relaying messages between families who've been separated. These are the things that keep us going, the reminders that we're stronger when we work together. If you're listening right now, I want you to know I'm here with you. This studio's my home tonight, and I'm not going anywhere as long as we've got power and a signal. I'm getting word that another emergency alert might be coming soon, possibly with more specific instructions. When it comes through, I'll share it right away. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing, stay safe, stay quiet, and stay connected. Check on your loved ones, even if it's just a quick call or text. If you've got a story or information, your voice matters, and it's helping us all understand what we're facing. It's been about 15 minutes since that last emergency alert, and we just got another one, this time with a sharper edge. The National Emergency Alert System is now classifying this situation as a national crisis. They're saying the number of affected individuals, those zombies moving through our streets, has grown significantly, with reports of hundreds, sometimes thousands, in major cities like Miami, Chicago, and Los Angeles. The alert repeated the advice to stay indoors, but they added something new. If you're in an urban area, try to get to a rural location if it's safe to do so. They're saying cities are becoming hotspots for these figures, who seem to be drawn to population centers. They also mentioned that bites or scratches are confirmed to spread whatever's causing this, and anyone who's been injured needs to isolate immediately and seek medical help at a safe zone. Here in Carson City, things are holding steady, but it's tense. The National Guard's barricades are still up, and I can see soldiers moving with purpose, setting up what looks like temporary shelters near the community center. The helicopters are more frequent now, their lights sweeping across the city, like searchlights. I just heard from our station manager that the safe zone at Carson High School is operational, with medical teams and supplies for anyone who needs them. If you're nearby and feel unsafe at home, that's where you should head, but only if you can get there without running into trouble. The streets are mostly empty, but I'm getting reports of small groups of these figures wandering near the outskirts of town, especially along the highways leading out. Let's zoom out and look at what's happening across the country. The situation's evolving fast, and the reports coming in are a mix of hard facts and stories from folks like you. In Phoenix, Arizona, local news is saying that entire shopping malls have been overrun, with these figures moving through stores and parking lots, ignoring everything but people. A listener from Omaha, Nebraska, sent us a message saying they saw a group of about 40 of these individuals moving across a cornfield, heading toward a residential area. They said it was like watching a wave, slow but unstoppable, and the group didn't react to anything, not dogs barking, not lights flashing, until they heard a car engine start. Then they turned all at once and started moving faster. That's consistent with what we're hearing. Sound and movement are like magnets for these figures. The medical angle is getting clearer, but it's not comforting. The CDC has confirmed that whatever's causing this spreads through bodily fluids, bites, scratches, even blood splatter in some cases. They're urging anyone who's been injured to quarantine themselves immediately. even if they feel fine, because symptoms can take hours to show up. Those symptoms start with fever and confusion, then progress to that jerky, uncoordinated movement we're seeing in the affected. Hospitals in major cities are struggling to keep up, and some, like one in St. Louis, Missouri, have stopped taking new patients altogether. The military stepping in to set up field hospitals in safe zones, but they're stretched thin. Here in Nevada, the safe zone in Reno is reportedly at capacity, and they're directing people to smaller towns like Sparks or Fernley, if they can get there safely. Power outages are a growing problem. The grid's failing in more places most. Florida's gone dark, along with chunks of Texas and the Northeast. Here in Carson City, we're still hanging on, but the lights in the studio are flickering more often, and I'm keeping my flashlight close. If you're in a blackout area, conserve your batteries and stick to essential devices. A listener from Cleveland, Ohio, wrote in saying they're using a hand crank radio to stay updated, and they've got their family gathered in the basement with candles and bottled water. That's the kind of planning we all need right now. If you've got a generator, use it sparingly. Fuel's going to be hard to come by if this keeps up. I want to share a story from a listener in Missoula, Montana, because it shows how this is hitting close to home. They said their small town was quiet until about an hour ago, when a group of these figures appeared on the edge of town, coming from the direction of a nearby highway. The listener, a school teacher named Ellen, said they barricaded their doors with furniture and turned off all the lights. They could hear the figures moving outside, slow and deliberate, like they were searching for something. Eventually, the group moved on, but Ellen said the fear of them coming back is keeping her family awake. Stories like that remind us this isn't just a big city problem. It's reaching everywhere. The government's response is getting more coordinated, but it's a massive challenge. The military's deploying additional troops to urban areas, and there's talk of martial law in some cities if things don't stabilize. The National Guard's setting up more safe zones, but they're prioritizing places with the most people, which means smaller towns might have to fend for themselves a bit longer. In Washington, D.C., the president's scheduled to address the nation soon, and I'll bring you that speech live when it happens. For now, Operation Safe Haven is in full swing with the goal of securing key infrastructure, hospitals, power plants, communication hubs, and protecting civilians. Here in Nevada, the governor's office is working with local leaders to keep supply lines open, but they're asking people to avoid hoarding food or gas, so everyone can get what they need. One thing that's standing out is how communities are stepping up. In places like Boise, Idaho, and Asheville, North Carolina, people are forming neighborhood watches, taking turns keeping an eye out for these figures and helping each other stay safe. A listener from Tulsa, Oklahoma, said their church is serving as a shelter, with volunteers handing out blankets and hot meals to anyone who shows up. These stories are a lifeline, a reminder that we're not just facing this alone. If you're able to help your neighbors, maybe sharing a flashlight or some canned goods, do it. It's these small acts that keep us human in times like this. I've been thinking about what this means for the days ahead. We're not just dealing with a crisis. We're adapting to a new reality. The things we took for granted, going to work, grabbing groceries, even taking a walk, are on hold for now. But we're resilient, and we've got each other. I'm hearing from listeners who are finding ways to cope, like a family in Lincoln, Nebraska, who's turning their basement into a temporary classroom to keep their kids busy. Another listener in Flagstaff, Arizona, said they're using this time to teach their teenagers basic first aid, just in case. These are the kinds of things that give me hope. Even when the news feels heavy, we're expecting another emergency alert soon, possibly with more details on safe zones or evacuation routes. When it comes in, I'll share it right away. For now, keep doing what you're doing. Stay indoors, stay quiet, and stay connected. Check on your family and friends. And if you've got a story or tip, it's been about 10 minutes since the last emergency alert, and a new one just came through, carrying the kind of weight that makes you sit up straight. The national emergency. Alert system is now calling this a critical national emergency, the strongest language they've used yet. They're saying the number of affected individuals has spiked dramatically, with estimates of tens of thousands in major cities and countless more in smaller towns. The alert confirmed that these figures are moving in larger, more coordinated groups, almost like they're following some kind of instinct or signal we don't understand. They're drawn to urban centers, but rural areas aren't safe either. As reports of these groups are coming in from every corner of the USA, the government's urging everyone to stay indoors, reinforce their homes, and avoid any contact with these individuals. They also repeated the warning about bites and scratches. Those are the main ways this condition spreads, and anyone injured needs to isolate and get to a safe zone immediately. Here in Carson City, the situation's getting tighter. The National Guard's checkpoint near the studio is now a full-blown operation, with more trucks rolling in and soldiers setting up what looks like heavy equipment, maybe generators or communication gear. The safe zone at Carson High School is still open, but I'm hearing it's crowded, with medical teams working overtime to treat people who've been injured or exposed. The streets are dead quiet now, except for the occasional siren or helicopter. From my window, I can see a faint glow on the horizon toward Reno, and I'm not sure if it's lights from emergency operations or something worse, like fires. Listener just messaged us saying they saw a group of about 20 of these figures moving along Highway 50, heading toward town. The guard's aware and sending a unit to check it out, but it's a reminder that even a small city like ours isn't out of the woods. Let's talk about what's happening nationwide, because the picture's getting clearer, even if it's not what we want to hear. In Houston, Texas, local news is reporting that entire downtown blocks have been abandoned after massive groups of these figures hundreds strong swept through, overwhelming police and National Guard barriers. People are fleeing to suburbs or rural areas, but the highways are clogged, making it hard to get out. In Boston, Massachusetts, there's word of a naval base being used as a safe zone, with ships docked to take in civilians who can't stay. On land, out west in Portland, Oregon, a listener sent us a message saying their neighborhood's been cut off by a group of these figures, maybe 200 or more, blocking the main roads. They're holed up in an apartment building, using furniture to barricade the entrances, and they're asking for any news about rescue operations. I wish I had more to tell them, but the military's spread thin, focusing on securing key cities. First, the science behind this is still a puzzle, but the CDC's making progress. They've confirmed that this condition is caused by a pathogen, likely a virus, that spreads through bodily fluids. It's fast-acting, with symptoms showing up in as little as an hour after a bite or scratch. First comes fever and disorientation, then loss of coordination, and finally, the transformation into one of these affected individuals. They're not sure where it started. Some are saying it could be a natural mutation. Others are whispering about a lab leak, but there's no proof either way. What's clear is that it's spreading faster than anyone expected, and containment is proving nearly impossible. The CDC's working on a treatment, but they're asking for patience, which is hard when you're hearing about hospitals shutting down or turning people away. Power outages are now widespread. Most of the East Coast is dark, along with large parts of California, Texas, and the Midwest. Here in Carson City, the grid's still holding, but the flickering lights in the studio are a constant reminder it might not last. I've got my flashlight and wind-up radio ready, and I'd urge you to do the same. A listener from Atlanta, Georgia, wrote in saying they're using a camping lantern to keep their family together in their garage with a battery-powered radio tuned to a local station. They said it's the only thing keeping them sane, hearing a voice through the static. That's why I'm here, folks, to be that voice, to keep us connected when everything else feels like it's falling apart. I want to share a few more listener stories, because they're what keep this real. In Cheyenne, Wyoming, a truck driver named Mark said he was on I-80 when he saw a group of these figures crossing the highway, moving like they were following something. He swerved to avoid them, but his truck got stuck in a ditch, and he had to run to a nearby gas station to hide. He's safe for now, but he said the figures didn't stop, just kept moving toward a town in the distance. In Savannah, Georgia, a nurse named Rachel sent us a message saying her hospital's been evacuated after a group of these individuals broke through the front doors. She's now at a safe zone outside the city, helping set up cots for the injured. These stories show how this is hitting everyone, from truckers to nurses, and how people are doing what they can to survive. The government's response is in overdrive now. Operation Safe Haven is expanding, with the military setting up more safe zones in places like Denver, Colorado, and Raleigh, North Carolina. They're also starting to airlift supplies, food, water, medical gear, to areas cut off by the outbreak. In Washington, D.C., the president's speech is still pending, but there's word it'll address evacuation plans and long-term strategies. Here in Nevada, the governor's office just announced that they're working with neighboring states to secure supply routes, but they're asking people to stay put unless absolutely necessary. If you're thinking about leaving, stick to back roads and avoid major highways, which are becoming dangerous choke points. One thing that's keeping me going is hearing about communities pulling together. In small towns like Bend, Oregon, and Laramie, Wyoming, people are sharing resources, food, blankets, even tools to reinforce homes. A listener from Mobile, Alabama, said their neighborhood set up a system where everyone checks on each other every hour, using walkie-talkies to stay in touch. It's these kinds of efforts that remind us we're not just fighting to survive, we're fighting to stay human. If you can help someone, a neighbor, a friend, even a stranger, do it. A can of soup or a kind word can make all the difference. As the night goes on, I'm thinking about what this means for the future. This isn't just a one-night crisis. It's changing how we live, at least for now. Schools are closed, businesses are shuttered, and normal life's on hold. But I'm hearing stories of people adapting in ways that give me hope. In Boise, Idaho, a group of teachers is organizing online classes to keep kids learning. In Des Moines, Iowa, a farmer's market is turning into a supply hub, with locals trading goods to help each other out. These are the seeds of something new, a way to keep going even when the world's turned upside down. We just got word of another emergency alert coming soon, possibly with updates on evacuation routes or new safe zones. I'll bring it to you as soon as it hits. For now, the best thing you can do is stay where you are, keep things quiet, and stay connected. Your experiences are helping us all understand what we're up against. As I sit here, I'm looking at the studio clock, and it's hard to believe how much has changed in just a few hours. The world outside feels different, but we're still here, still talking, still holding on. I'm thinking about my own family, safe at home, and I know you're thinking about yours. Let's keep them close, even if it's just through a phone call or a prayer. I'm going to stay on the air as long as I can, but the lights are flickering more now, and I can hear a low hum outside, not helicopters, but something else. Maybe the wind, maybe something worse. If we lose power, I'll switch to the wind-up radio and keep broadcasting from wherever I can.